And what is the downside of supplementing with anything but pure fulvic isolates? And Dr. Faust has touched a little bit on this, but in the black products, there are coal tar waxes because these substances are being extracted from material that's in the process of becoming coal. There are sulfonamides in brown or brown red products. As I already said, humic substances are higher in free radicals. They have heavy metals. They contain mineral salts. They lead to cell dehydration and pH imbalance. And what are coal tar waxes? There are any number of listed chemicals: benzene, toluene, xylenes, coumarone, indines. These are petrochemicals. These chemicals are present in the black substances, and it's nothing that any company has to disclose on a certificate of analysis. It's not required by either USDA or FDA regulations. And this is a very important point because the human cell requires 15 minerals to function. What are these minerals? Everybody kind of knows this: calcium, magnesium, potassium, sodium, chlorine, phosphorus, iron, zinc, fluorine, selenium, copper, chromium, iodine, manganese, and molybdenum. Anything over these 15 minerals is not something the human body can use. And if you're taking a product that has 70 or 72 or 85 trace minerals in it, you're getting minerals into your body that you can't use. And what are these minerals that are any more than 15 or any more than an atomic weight of 30, which is zinc? Well, arsenic, lead, cadmium, cesium, barium, polonium, bismuth. These heavy metals are a problem because literally they're heavy, and they will displace the lighter minerals from the binding sites, which are required to bring them into the intestinal system in the first place, and then into the cells. And the lighter minerals, which are all less than 30, these minerals that I just discussed, will be displaced from not only their binding sites that bring them into the portal circulation to the liver, but also into the critical enzyme systems that are not going to go away because they can't be displaced. And once a heavy metal is bound to critical enzyme systems, which I call the machinery of the cell, they're not going to go anywhere. Heavy metals are for plants, they're not for humans. Heavy metals allow a root vegetable, for instance, to form a water barrier so that the soil doesn't destroy it as it's developing. Heavy metals support stems, and they support leaves. They support the structure of the plant. Heavy metals don't support the structure of the human cell. The human cell is structured by mainly calcium and phosphorus. The key to eliminating heavy metals is not to ingest them in the first place. And keep in mind that, as I just said, according to USDA and FDA regulations, food and supplement manufacturers are only required to test for 4 heavy metals: arsenic, cadmium, lead, and zinc. And if the product lists more than 30 minerals in it, it has heavy metals by definition. And even if there's a listing of the heavy metals, and this is a product that is a humic fulvic product, as you can see, there's arsenic, cadmium, lead in this product. So you have to be very careful when you're evaluating these mineral products because they do contain heavy metals. The human body uses minerals in their organic form. What does this mean? It means that the minerals are supposed to come to us bound to carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, and nitrogen structures in the plant. This is an example of magnesium bound in a chlorophyll molecule. Calcium is found within the structure of the leaf of the plant. Phosphorus is bound into the organic structures of numerous chemical compounds in plant cells, including the DNA, including the Krebs cycle enzymes that function in the plant as well. So when we're taking in the whole food, we're getting minerals in an organic form and not in a salt form that looks completely different from the organic structure in which minerals need to be bound so that we work. When we're taking minerals in salt form, they're basically called total, or they're called dissolved solids. And just like if you're taking dishes out of a dishwasher that you've run through a cycle, these spots show up on your glasses that are the minerals that were dissolved in the water. And as the product that is described as a fulvate evaporates, you can see the mineral deposits that are collecting on the edge of the glass. And just for comparison, I show in this slide that we have fulvic acid, our fulvic acid Wujansan product on the left, and as it evaporates on the right, you don't see any accumulation of any salt crystals on the glass. This means that the minerals that are dissolved and present in the fulvic acid are bound within the structure, and that makes them bioavailable. Just like Dr. Faust has alluded to, fulvic acid is ubiquitous in nature. It's found within the structure of the plant itself. And when we are eating the whole plant, consuming the whole plant, we are getting the minerals in the form in which our body can use them. And Dr. Faust has told me many, many times that mineral salts clog up the pores of a plant. Maybe you can discuss that a little bit more, Dr. Faust, just so people understand the process.
Yeah, in plant production, especially hydroponics, we get lockup. Now that can be caused by interaction between elements. For instance, calcium will combine with iron or phosphorus. And the other part is, let's go back to the black stuff, or the humic, the so-called humic. You mentioned waxes and other compounds that are more of what we call methylene groups, which are found in petrochemicals. Okay. Now, they definitely, like in plant production, hydroponics, if we use too high a concentration of so-called humic acid products, the black stuff, you'll get the symptoms of drought stress because they plug up the cells in the root system. So the plant can't take up moisture or minerals. It's suffering as if it's in drought, even though there's plenty of moisture. Okay, so this is really a big factor. Now, in a process that we use in producing our fulvic acids for agriculture, for human use, and remember, we're one of the largest producers in the country. The first step is to remove the waxes, and the waxes float to the surface. They're released by the microbes because they're not available, and these have to be removed by a special process, kind of like filtration. Not actually filtration. We actually skim these waxes off. Now, a lot of these coal-based humic acid products used to be used to produce waxes back when all cars were black. They'd actually extract humates, the so-called humates or coal, lignites, or whatever you want to call it, were actually used as a source of wax. This is wax from plant cells as they're preserved by nature. And those waxes and tannins, or not tannins, but waxes, have to be removed because they're detrimental to plant growth, and so if you use, how do you get rid of waxes? You use lye, which is sodium hydroxide, and then that will solubilize, just like you can take fatty acids and solubilize them and make soap. Okay, well, if these these waxes and waxy substances in the humic acid, the precursors, the mineral they use, the coal, really, and I mean, we saw the picture, and a lot of these companies use coal. They were used as a source of wax to wax cars, make them shiny. You know, black cars, it's a black substance. Mm-hmm. Okay, well, we definitely don't need that in our, it's going to really interfere with a lot of things. It's really a negative.
Right.
Negative for plants. It's a negative for, let's just say cells. Right. Let's just say cells.
Right.
And,
So by default, these salts are clogging up the pores of human cells as well through other mechanisms, which we're going to talk about in a minute. But what the salts do is they increase electrical resistance, but this decreases electrical conductivity. That's just the fancy way to say what you just said, that it's as if the plants are experiencing drought in the presence of a lot of water. Flow of everything in and out of the cell depends on electrical conductivity. And when you increase electrical resistance with salts, you reduce the electrical conductivity. And this means water flow, blood flow, and nutrient flows to the cells is inhibited, which is critical for cell function. Mineral salts have, through the ages, always been preservatives. So that's what koshering means. When you put salt on meat, what does it do? It draws out the blood, it draws out the water, it acts as a preservative. Salt will do the same thing in your body. Water is drawn out of the cells, causing cell dehydration. And it's just simply a fact that without adequate water, without 99% of your molecules being water, your cells just won't work properly. Another major issue is that all the organ systems in the body work within a very narrow range of the pH. The nose, the esophagus, the stomach, a pH of about 6.5. The duodenum, which is the end part of the stomach, is a pH of 7 to 8. The small intestine, a pH of 7. The colon works at a pH of 6.5. The bladder at 6.5. The skin somewhere between 4.7 and 5.7. And blood at 7.3 and 7.4. The brain, like the blood, is slightly alkaline at a pH of 7.3. And when you're introducing salts at a pH of 7.5, 8, 8.5, 9.4, 10.5, 11.3, as we've just shown, these products are interfering with hydrochloric acid production in the stomach. Why? Because the stomach has to be a pH of 6.5 to produce hydrochloric acid. If hydrochloric acid isn't produced in adequate amounts, you have inhibition of pepsin in the stomach, which then inhibits proper protein digestion. And people wonder, why is there so much depletion and loss of hydrochloric acid production in the stomach over time? And it's because there are lots of recommendations out there about how to support your health that actually impair and inhibit hydrochloric acid production. Without a proper pH, nutrient absorption in the small intestine itself being too high or too low doesn't function properly. And this technically closes the tight junctions, but impairs their function as a gating system. The tight junctions have to open and close. They don't always remain shut. And when you increase the resistance and shut the gates, it prevents the proper flow, which is controlled by pH and by electrical conductivity within the intestinal epithelial cell itself. So when there's alteration in pH of the intestinal system, you have from the very beginning an alteration in the function of your intestinal tract, and this leads to small bowel intestinal overgrowth, which a lot of people are dealing with. But in my research and learning, no one is really talking about the basic science that Dr. Faust and I are talking about, the basic chemistry of how all this works, that we have to pay attention to generating electricity, supporting electrical conductivity, and maintaining pH at proper levels. Many of these products even openly say that these products taste bad. So they recommend fruit juice, including lemon and lime juice, as a vehicle in which to take these humic, fulvic, and fulvic mineral products. The problem is that fruit juice contains citric acid. What is citric acid? It's a chelating agent, which binds the very minerals that are supposedly the main benefit of these products, preventing these minerals from getting into your body. So the takeaway here is that fulvic acid, fulvic isolate, fulvic substances, which are a group of organic compounds, are what has the biological activity in the human body. Our fulvic acid isolate product, Wujinsan, is 100% naturally extracted. There's no chemical manipulation. It's actually the only purified fulvic acid product on the market. Importantly, it provides the fundamental building blocks for all the biochemistry that happens in the human cell: hydrogen, oxygen, carbon, nitrogen, and sulfur. The minerals are organically bound. They don't exist as mineral salts. Our products are sourced from leonardite mines, which are higher in fulvic acid than lignite. They're an acid pH, and they're clear and yellow in color with a full range of biological activity. And we're going to discuss the biological activity at our next session. But essentially, I want people to understand that if you're taking a humic fulvic, a fulvic mineral product that is not clear yellow and doesn't have an acid pH, it's a mineral salt product without the full biological activity with negative consequences. And it is kind of confusing because many people will tell me, well, I was taking this other product and I actually felt pretty good when I take it. But over time, I wasn't feeling this benefit and I actually started to feel worse. Well, the thing is, because mineral salts do help support the conduction of electricity, just the fact that that happens when you take it, you can feel better. But supporting electricity, as I just said, comes with the consequences of ingesting heavy metals, altering the pH, which ultimately doesn't sustain and support proper function of your cells. So there's no long-term benefit to any product that isn't a pure fulvic isolate.
Yeah, Dr. Wanek, I will say too, from the plant, the hydroponics side, which we sell the fulvic acid called Full Power to the hydroponic industry on 4 continents. We have tens of thousands of customers that are hydroponic growers that prefer our product over everything else because our product will not increase conductivity. In other words, it has the benefits as far as increasing the chi or the mana flow of the plant or the animal without increasing conductivity. And that means in the case of hydroponics, you can add more mineral salts. A lot of these products that are actually the salts of humic acid increase the electrical conductivity, which means you have to limit the actual nutrient salts in the hydroponic solution. So they use Full Power humic fulvic acid, which is not a salt. It does not increase electrical conductivity, and it allows a full portion of the required mineral salts that are required in hydroponics. And if that wasn't so, we wouldn't be selling tens of thousands of gallons per month to the hydroponic industry and have the major distributors in that field representing our products.
Right. Right. So what you're saying is that that because there are no mineral salts as dissolved solids in pure fulvic isolate products, the conductivity is not supported to the extent where it's actually closing the pores of the cells, because too much conductivity, too much electrical conductivity has negative consequences.
Big time. And in hydroponics, it's monitored daily, conductivity, because you're going to get the symptoms of drought stress and dehydration. And salt burn is the term they use, because you got too high of a level of salts. That has to be carefully monitored. And if you use a salt, humic acid salts, the black stuff or the brown stuff, or something's extracted using hydroxide, sodium or
Right.
potassium hydroxide, you're increasing the electrical conductivity up to a point that can be detrimental to the plant itself. And also it reduces the amount of crucial mineral salts you can add to the media. And so you don't get full genetic potential from the plants. And there's other reasons why you don't get the full genetic potential, because plants need these humic substances.
Right.
The biochemicals make up of the fulvic fraction. So let's just remember that this is like a soup. It's not one compound, it's hundreds of compounds. And just like there's hundreds of types of soup. So what kind of soup are we talking about here?
Right, right. So thank you so much, Dr. Faust, for joining us today and sharing with us your extensive knowledge and experience with fulvic substances. And I, for one, am extremely grateful that you have brought your knowledge and your work to this line of human health supplements that includes the Wujinsan, which is our flagship product. I've used it in my own medical practice as what I call fundamental support for nearly 20 years. It's what brings life to the soil. It's what brings life to the human cell. So there are numerous benefits, which we're going to discuss during our next session. So thank you all for joining us today, and we'll see you next time.